we take your Packers Fan Podcast to Australia to join the Aussie Guys next.
Welcome back. Wayne Henderson here. You're listening to the Packers Fan Podcast, an unofficial fan podcast by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And I'm excited to share our recent appearance on the Aussie Guys and their NFL Fantasy and Insight podcast. This is the third year in a row they've invited us Packers Fan Podcast guys to represent the green and gold for their Packers-focused episode.
It was very kind of the Aussie Guys to allow us to share their episode with you in our podcast feed. So thanks to AJ and his missing co-host biking on holiday in Austria. You can find the podcast on AussieGuysNFL.podbean.com. And AJ has been asking guests on every episode, looking ahead 12 months, what do you envision the headline will be about the Green Bay Packers? So you'll want to hear that from us. We talk about the record from last year in 2008, where we ended with 6-9-1. We talk about McCarthy leaving. We talk about AR-12's injury and the Clay Matthews penalties. Lots of things to talk about here.
Hello and welcome. We're the Aussie Guys. I'm AJ in Aussie Guys studio. Once again on my own. G is still on holiday in Austria now, mountain biking down the Austrian Alps. Hopefully keeping his body in one single piece. we can hope. But sending me photos while it's cold here, freezing cold here in Melbourne, sending me photos of beautiful sunny European days. Oh, man. Anyway, here to record today our Green Bay Packers preview, and about to get on the line the guys from the Packers Fan Pod. We had them on, actually we might have even had them on the last couple of years. They're fantastic to talk to. Talking to Wayne Henderson and also to Scott Lindsay today. So let's get them on the line and chat Packers. Okay, so I've got Wayne and Scott on the line right now. Welcome, guys. It's great to connect with you again.
Good evening, AJ. Thanks for having us back to represent the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers.
What were you saying about us being cocky there, AJ? Yeah, that's us.
That was my co-host, for the record.
Oh, okay.
We miss him. Hope his holiday's going well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't break anything. My hope is that he comes back in one piece.
Well, and AJ, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as the newest co-host of the Packers Fan Podcast. I'm excited to talk with you. This time difference thing is crazy. 15 hours is a long time. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sure is. So it's almost Sunday morning, literally here. So, yeah, getting there. Yeah, let's talk Packers, guys. Let's talk Packers. And obviously, first week of the preseason is basically in the books now. And, things are moving along. It's getting quite exciting. And the Packers, it's a new era for the Packers, really, in many ways. But before we talk new era, let's talk 2018, which you may not want to. You may be a bit reluctant to talk 2018.
Packers had its moments, that's for sure. But.
Yes. Packers finished 6-9-1. I think for me, the things that I remember the most was the first game. I think it was the first game from memory that we had Aaron Rodgers basically tearing up his knee, and it looked like it was going to be a season-ending thing. It didn't end up being so, but he certainly wasn't really the same for the whole season. And the other thing that was huge, obviously, in 2018 was the whole Mike McCarthy thing. So after a good length of time in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy was shown the door, and it was quite ugly too. I mean, the whole Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy thing that was sort of aired quite publicly, it was ugly. There's no other word for it. What are your impressions of 2018 as a whole, and maybe touching on the Mike McCarthy firing?
Oh, boy. Well, Mike McCarthy has been a standard with the Green Bay Packers for a long time. I mean, he was no Mike Holmgren for sure, but I still enjoyed him as a coach. For the most part, he was very level-headed and not hot-headed. There's a couple times where he got a little red in the face, but I enjoyed him, and I'm of the mind, and I might be in the minority here, that Mike McCarthy wasn't the problem. And I don't really know what to make of the controversy that the media has shown us in regards to McCarthy versus Rodgers. The media makes it feel like Rodgers is getting a bit too big for his britches and wants to run the shots and run the team himself. And I don't know if I believe that. But then coming into this new season with LaFleur, we're already seeing stories about how Rodgers is criticizing LaFleur for doing all-team practices, and I don't know. I really don't know what to feel at this point, but I'm eager to see what's going to happen in that first regular season game. I know that a lot of people are excited about the preseason and all that, but I'm more excited about when it actually matters, especially that first week against the Bears.
And speaking of the Bears, they are the team that injured Aaron Rodgers' knee last year. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can get past that. That's the second season in a row, AJ, where an NFC North opponent injured our quarterback and in many ways trashed our season. The other thing that was really strange about 2018, especially the first half, was the total mistakes and horrible officiating. And Clay Matthews getting called for all sorts of roughing the passer penalties that cost us games at least twice, and just bonkers the whole season.
It's interesting you touch on that that whole narrative about Aaron Rodgers and him being quite a difficult quarterback to coach and just a difficult personality, full stop, is an interesting one. The national media certainly have picked up on that in a big way. It's hard to kind of know the truth, and I suspect it's, somewhere in the middle perhaps, but it'll be interesting to see how Matt LaFleur goes. Yes, certainly the media picking up lots of things, Matt LaFleur saying things and it being misinterpreted, and I think things will settle down, and we'll see. Once the Packers get on the field, we'll sort of see the reality of it all.
Exactly. Let's just get the season here. September 5th is but weeks away.
Yes,
and I know we keep talking about 2018 as a negative with that 6-9-1, but you got to remember that game with the injury. We can't forget how that game ended.
Amazingly,
it was amazing. We thought Rodgers was out for the season, and he came back in the second half and just marched down the field and wound up winning the game. Yeah. Granted, that was only one of our 6 wins, but man, what resilience and great way to kick off the season. Unfortunately, the rest of it didn't fall into place as we had hoped.
Let's talk a little bit about the off-season then. We'll move into free agency to begin with. And, one thing, and I've said it, I think I may have even said exactly the same thing last year, but, one of the things that was certainly true under Ted Thompson was the Packers were generally pretty frugal in free agency, or they weren't active at all. Like they basically used to do nothing, or you'd look after signing your own guys, basically, is a priority. Whereas under Brian Gutekunst, it's been a little bit different. And certainly, I like some of the signings that were made this year, and there has been some attention to the pass rush in particular. Zadarius Smith was a great signing. Preston Smith is a good piece. Zadarius Smith I'm much more excited about. Adrian Amos in the defensive backfield coming across from the Bears is a good, strong safety. And guard tackle Billy Turner, who I confess I don't know a lot about. And a few players out the door, but I think all told, they were mostly pieces that you could kind of do without. Randall Cobb, Mohamed Wilkerson, Nick Perry, Clay Matthews, Jake Ryan, Brashard Breeland, and Kentrell Bryce. What were your feelings about free agency this year?
I would say that the free agency was an interesting mix for me, because part of me hates to see us lose those recognizable names like Matthews and Cobb.
Sure.
However, as sports goes, players get older, and I'm not going to say that they're irrelevant, but there's always room for new blood, and that's what I like to see. I'm still learning the names and getting used to it, because there's lots of new names from the coach all the way down. So it's going to take me a while to get back into the swing. But I got to say, my favorite move from free agency was the one-day signing of Jordy Nelson so that he could retire as a Packer.
Right.
Which was just such a Midwest Green Bay Packers thing to do, and I just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's just the reality of the modern NFL, isn't it? That this sort of thing happens, but in a perfect world, Geordie just would have played out his career in Green Bay. But it's nice at least that teams do this sort of thing and bring him back and see him off in a nice fashion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It just to me shows the heart of this team.
Yeah, precisely. Now in the draft, some interesting picks. Rashawn Gary, again, adding to the pass rush. Darnell Savage, I like that pick. And a safety, defensive backfield. Jace Sternberger, so you're adding to your tight end group, a successor for Jimmy Graham. And Elgton Jenkins, an offensive lineman. So how did you feel about the draft, guys?
Myself, I was very pleased. Till we see them play, it's hard to give an exact grade, but I feel like it was an A-, because our defense is instantly so much better. I have some friends that have seen Rashawn Gary play every single snap that he played in college at Michigan, and they said, we are in for a treat. And Darnell Savage, that's going to be amazing. And who doesn't want to have a jersey that says Savage on the back?
I just want that last name. What a great last name.
I know. That's going to be amazing. And I don't know what we're going to do with these 5,000 tight ends we have, but apparently there are things in the works. And I just feel really good about these guys and hope that they all stay healthy and can make the team and just take us to the next level.
I agree with you, Wayne. And I after the draft took place, a lot of Packers fans in my personal circle were really upset that they were just focusing so much on defense, especially for the first two picks. And my answer to that was, that's what we need, guys. We haven't had a incredibly strong defense for quite a while. It's always been Chicago that's got the fantastic defense. But on the same token, one of the hallmarks of Rodgers is how many targets that he has to throw to. And we lost Cobb, and there's been a couple players that he's been throwing to, but I'm okay with the tight ends, with lots of tight ends, because I want to give Rodgers as many targets as possible. That's kind of the hallmark of the Packers, is that there are star players, but the ball is spread apart between everybody so evenly, because Rodgers likes to keep the defense on their toes and not always go for the same player every time. He just goes for whoever's open. And I would maybe like to see a couple more wide receivers, but I'm happy with the defensive picks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jay Sternberger is an incredible talent, and certainly will be one of the best tight ends out of this class. There's no doubt. Even though there were a couple that were, Fant and Hawkinson were picked before him, but Sternberger is, he's a huge target. But the thing that is true about Aaron Rodgers is your best ability is your availability in ways. Like, if you can find your way open and you're where you're meant to be. I don't know if you guys have the phrase, doesn't suffer fools gladly. I don't know if that's just an Australian phrase or if it's a general one.
That's new to me.
I feel like Aaron Rodgers is certainly the guy, certainly the sort of guy who will, if you're running the routes you're meant to be running and you're getting open and he delivers the ball to you and you catch it, then he's just going to do it again, right. And if you don't do that, then he's not going to place his trust in you, basically. And we had that moment where he called out his wide receiver group last year, and certainly in the preseason last year, and certainly, he favoured Devonta Adams, but why wouldn't you?
True. Good point.
But he's got a young receiving core that's coming up, and it's, Geronimo Allison played really well before he got injured. MVS he's coming on. So these young guys, I guess the key is, as long as they can play in the system and earn and keep Aaron Rodgers' trust, then they're going to be productive.
And don't forget about Jake Kumerow.
Yeah.
That guy, if he stays healthy this year, I think he could be a solid number 2 wide receiver. The guy is just amazing. He's fun to watch. The crowds love him. Aaron Rodgers seems to really like him, but he does like everybody that does catch the passes.
Yeah.
So, but keep an eye out for Jake Kumaro.
Yeah. Oh, look, he certainly preseason last year, he was just tearing it up. So let's hope. But it's always sort of seemed sort of kind of a roundabout way of me getting to the point that I think that I don't know that Aaron Rodgers uses the tight end position really that much.
I agree. I think he goes to his wide receivers quite a bit more often than he does the tight ends. But with like you mentioned a second ago, the multiple tight ends are picking up. Maybe that strategy could be changing. I don't know if you guys watched the preseason game, but Robert Tonyan had a really nice 23-yard catch. And I think that he's actually going to also help with the running game as well, because he threw down a couple of blocks. And I think he's a really valuable addition to the team there, too.
A tight end that does blocks? This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly not a word that Jimmy Graham understands. Or knows the meaning of. So let's talk a little bit about the O-line. And certainly, I mean, Aaron, again, just going back to Aaron Rodgers for a second, no one would debate you if you said that he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's unquestioned. But the thing is, it's now becoming a little bit more critical that he stays healthy, because it's now that he's missed, big chunks of 2 of the last 5 seasons. And in other ones, he's been banged up, and it's becoming a real impediment to his legacy.
Well, I mean, that's one of the downfalls of being one of the top guys, is that you're an easy target, right? And just from talking to other fans of NFL that are not Packers fans, there's a lot of hatred for Aaron Rodgers from a lot of my friends too, and I kind of assume that that's going to filter down to some of the players on opposing teams as well that just kind of have it out for him. So it's going to happen, and we got to keep him protected.
Yeah. Oh, look, absolutely. So let's talk about the O-line. Let's talk about who's protecting him. And you've got some good pieces, without a doubt. So Billy Turner signed a $28 million contract. He was with the Broncos last season. There's a little bit of a perception that he was maybe a tad overpaid, but regardless, he's going to be in one of the guard spots along with Lane Taylor. You've got David Bakhtiari, who's one of the best left tackles in the league. You've got Brian Bulaga, who's just rock solid, and centre Corey Lindsay as well. So, across the board, it's a pretty good offensive line, I'd say.
Absolutely. And that big payday, I mean, look at who he was protecting in Denver versus who he is now being paid to protect in Green Bay. I think if he does the job well, it'll be money well spent.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the running backs. And it was probably just as frustrating for you guys as it was for fantasy owners of Aaron Jones. Mike McCarthy just, for some reason, just didn't want to kind of commit to Aaron Jones particularly last year. But, he did pull in some strong performances, especially sort of in the second half of the year. He never had really more than 17 carries in a game. But I feel like this could be really the year that we see the real Aaron Jones, or see his true potential. What do you guys think?
And I certainly hope so, because AJ, pulled out my hair so many games, especially early in the season. Why are we giving up on the run already? It was just starting to work. What are we doing? And, whether or not it was McCarthy or maybe Aaron Rodgers audibling, I'm not sure. But I know that Aaron Jones has come a long way. And with this new season and our new coach, LaFleur, I just think it's ripe that we need to really, really focus on making the running game part of our offense this year. Maybe even Dexter Williams that we got in the draft can come up as well. But I think this is Aaron Jones's year, and I've got a big eye on him. Anybody else, Scott?
I mean, you mentioned Dexter Williams already, but I mean, I feel like we've been saying this for years, Wayne. Like, why are we just focused only on the passing game? I can't remember the last time we had a team where we were like, all right, our running game is just solid. And we can't win games on Aaron Rodgers alone. As much as I love the guy, we've got to mix it up a little bit. Just like I mentioned, he mixes up who his targets are. We've got to mix up the play calling as well and do some more creative plays other than running up the middle and hoping that a hole's going to open up. Do some bootlegs and do some pitches and let's make something happen and give these guys a chance. And if it doesn't work the first time, you know what? Try it again. Sometimes the pass doesn't work and you keep passing. So why don't we do that with the running game? Yeah,
absolutely. Let's move across to the defense. And I think that the defense is looking really good. I don't know how you guys feel about there's certainly been a lot of changes. And I think it's looking really, really solid front to back. But certainly, we already mentioned the addition of Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. Obviously, Zadarius Smith coming across from the Ravens. He had 8.5 sacks last year. Preston Smith from the Redskins. Drafted Rashawn Gary. And those guys are going to be on a line where you've got, Kenny Clark, who's a Pro Bowl nose tackle.
Yeah, great last name, too.
Yeah.
Coincidence? Relative?
Ooh.
Not sure.
So suddenly that D-line is looking really solid.
Don't forget Dean Lowry as well. He's
yeah.
actually from my hometown here. He went to high school here in the Rockford area. So he proved himself quite a bit last year as well, too. So I don't want to forget that guy.
Mike Daniels. That was a shock.
Yes. I don't understand that move at all. I really don't.
I think most of the NFL didn't understand that move. There was suddenly a scramble of teams trying to sign the guy. Like why he went to Detroit, because I think he actually came out and said he wanted to go to a competitor.
Yeah,
so,
and then
it's like, hang on. I thought you just said... Anyway. But yeah, the Mike Daniels thing was shocking. And I don't know what prompted that.
Yeah, unless it's just simply the money and the fact that he's had a couple of injuries, it doesn't really make any sense. He just seemed like such a great guy, a fun guy, a leader on the defense, was great with social media and, reaching out to the media. I have no idea. He will help the Lions win another game or two each year, but I don't think, like you said, AJ, that's going to be quite enough for the Lions.
No, I don't think so. They certainly have a lot of needs, but let's go to the next level of the defense where you've got Blake Martinez, anchoring down the middle, and Oren Burks, who you drafted in the 3rd last year, coming on. He looks to start next to Martinez in the middle there, and obviously Zadarius Smith, maybe he's not going to have his hand in the dirt, but it looks like a good sort of core in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't follow the line on an individual basis as much as I do the other players, but I'm very hopeful for the future. Especially, I mean, these are a bunch of names I'm not as familiar with. I'm not, you don't hear these guys' names called on the field nearly as much, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do.
Sure.
Yeah, they do a lot of work. They don't get as much of the glory, but I think as a whole, our defense is something that people should not overlook just because of how the Packers defense has performed the past few years.
No,
I agree. This is one of the first years that when I go to my fantasy football draft that the Packers defense is going to be a little bit higher than it has been in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also backed up by your defensive backfield because you added, obviously, Adrian Amos to the mix, which is a really good add. Drafted Darnell Savage in the 1st. Great. I love that pick. And obviously, you drafted the 2 cornerbacks last year, didn't you? It was Jair Alexander and who else did you draft?
Kevin King last year or the year before?
Oh, Kevin King was in the 2nd round 2017, and I think you...
Okay.
Was it Josh Jackson?
Could be.
I think so. I'm just looking at the depth chart at the moment. Kevin King is slated on the depth chart to play opposite Alexander. But, I mean, across the back there, that's very solid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see how they play out, especially in some of these early games before the bye week, because they're going to be tested against the Bears and the Vikings and the Eagles for sure.
Yeah, that's right. But, if that defense, and it does look much improved, I think if that defense can lift their game, then, that all the better, because they can take some of the pressure off Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, which would be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the phrase? The best offense is a good defense?
Absolutely.
Ooh, I like that. Let me write that down. That's gold. I love it. It's true, though. It really is.
It is very true. So, looking at the season, how do you think they're going to go?
Scott, you go first.
Oh, man. It's so hard to say because all I really have to go off of is the draft and this one preseason game that we've got under our belt, which
Right.
They looked pretty decent. My worry is that we're coming off of a brand new coach. I mean, how many years did we have McCarthy? There's going to be a lot of kinks to work out. Yeah, I mean, and I understand that's what preseason is for, but in preseason we're hardly getting the starters playing. So I don't mean to be the downer here, Wayne, and you might shoot me down for this, but I really think that we're not going to win that first game as much as I want to. I think the Bears are going to come out with resolve, and we're going to be still trying to sort things out with our new coach. I think it'll be close, but I think that Chicago's going to edge it out. As far as the rest of the season, I think we'll backpedal, and we'll be well over 500 by the end of the season. But I got to kind of see more actual games before I kind of make my predictions for the playoffs.
The North is an interesting division. You've got to think Detroit are looking like they're going to be the bottom of the division. You probably put money on that, yeah. But apart from that, it's tougher to call, and I sort of feel like it's between Green Bay and Minnesota for the division. But it's going to be, there's a lot of tough games in there for sure.
And it really is hard to predict, especially with the new coach and the new system and what have you. But we do still have Aaron Rodgers and the rest of the squad. And every single season, you go back and check like the ESPN analysts, NFL Network, and others, they always talk about this is the year for the Bears or the Vikings. They throw their names around back and forth. These two teams are the ones going to the Super Bowl. And they always kind of overlook the Packers. And if Aaron Rodgers hadn't been injured the past two seasons, who knows what could have happened. But I think people are buying in, sure, that first game to kick off the NFL's 100th season in Chicago is going to be a tough one. I do think it is going to be close, but I think we're actually going to win it. And going through the rest of the season, on the surface, being the fanboy I am, I don't see any reason that we could not win every game this season. But the tough one, the real test, is going to be October 27th at Kansas City. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in what is one of the other loudest stadiums in the NFL. That's going to be a huge Monday night game or Sunday night game that's really going to be the telltale sign. And in fact, it's so close to the midway point of the season, it's going to say a lot for both teams. And who knows, when we get to that game, maybe one of those teams will have fizzled out and it won't be anything. But on the surface, that's the one I'm nervous about.
Well, you're forgetting one key factor there, though, Wayne. Patrick Mahomes is on the cover of Madden 20 this year. So
that changes everything.
The Madden curse is real, man. I'm telling you, every year.
So you're saying that there's a chance the Packers are going 16-0?
Yes, exactly. Well, 15 because they're going to lose because of my earlier prediction. But
well, the extreme is now. Let me see if I can pull his name out of the air here. Was it Peyton Hillis
from the Browns?
From the Browns, who made the cover of Madden. So he had that 1 year, literally that one really good year, and they put him on the cover. And then, man, that guy's in a Dunkin' Donuts or something similar these days. I'm sure.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. We're
definitely like joking around about this, but there's something to be said. It's kind of crazy. Every year, almost every year, the person that gets on the cover of Madden has something that either ruins their career or definitely impedes their progress that season. And I know it's just a superstitious thing, but it's fun to bring up.
Yeah, and it could have something to do with just all the hype that's built around you. You're showing all of your friends and family, look, I'm on the cover. And instead of focus, who knows? It could be anything, but more often than not, there's something happens.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing to keep in the conversation is the strength of the NFC as well. I mean, if you don't win the North, getting a wild card, I mean, the NFC East would probably bring a team or potentially a team or two to the wild card. The South as well is strong. So there's a lot of competition. So, the path to the playoffs is a difficult one.
Right. It's win the division or pray.
Right. Essentially.
I'd rather not have to pray for the playoffs. Let's just win the division.
That's right. To round us out, I've got a curly question for you, and you can both have a stab at this. But I've been asking our guests for our team previews. So let's jump ahead 12 months, and we're now looking back at the season. The 2019 season is now over. So what was the headline? Write the headline for the 2019 season.
And AJ, I've been listening to the recent episodes of your Aussie Guys podcast, and I've heard some very interesting answers. I love this question. I think the headline 12 months from now will be Aaron Rodgers and the Packers go strong, defending their 14th NFL title.
Whew. Very nice.
You, Scott?
So what's the headline for the Packers, or just the headline for the NFL overall? Is that what you're saying?
The Packers.
The Packers.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. LaFleur shines in his first season, doesn't quite edge out the win.
Wow. Interesting. I think for mine...
Wayne's glaring at me through the radio right now. I can feel it.
Hey, you got to say what you're thinking. I love it.
I feel like I would just... As a non-Packers fan, I just want to see Aaron Rodgers healthy and playing Aaron Rodgers football for 16 games. That's what I want to see.
That'll make the NFL a better place and Sunday night highlights more fun to watch.
My word.
Absolutely. And I know I mentioned earlier that there's a lot of hatred for the guy, but the love for the guy outside of the Packers fans far outweighs the hatred. There's a lot of even Bears fans that I know around here that respect the guy and how fundamental he is with the game. I know that a lot of people loved and prefer Favre, but to me, Favre took a lot of chances and sometimes they paid off. But to me, Rodgers is much more fundamental, and I'm happy having him at the helm.
Yeah, that's the thing. As a football fan as well, we're all football fans. When you watched Favre in full flight, and same goes for Rodgers, it's just a thing of beauty. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
More so. I mean, sure, we can watch and respect a Tom Brady, but I think this is a different style of quarterbacking.
Can we though? Can we respect Tom Brady?
Okay, no.
There you go, Scott.
Guys, it's been an absolute blast chatting to you, as always. Always enjoy it. And people should look you up at Packers Fan Pod. That's where they can find all the links to the podcast, etc. And, it's getting exciting, isn't it? We're getting ever closer.
I can smell football season from here. And, yes, on Twitter, at Packers Fan Pod, or just our website at PackersFanPodcast.com.
Perfect.
Also, if you are a fan of NFL and Madden and you'd like to hear us talk about video games, I have a video game podcast also called The Gaming Outsider, which you can find at iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, all that. Or you can check out our website, thegamingoutsider.com, or our Twitter handle, which is at TheGoCast.
Nice. Very good. Certainly, Madden is very popular, and I'd love to, but I just don't have enough time in the day. Yeah. I wish I did.
I feel you, man.
Yeah.
It was a good discussion on the Gaming Outsider this week. It makes me want to get back into gaming because Madden, it just seems like with every iteration, it's more and more realistic. And the question one of your co-hosts, I think, brought up on the episode was, does anybody think when they walk by you playing Madden that you're actually watching a game and not playing a video game?
One of these days, we're going to get to the point where it's, completely... it's getting so... The quality is amazing. We're going to get to a point where it's absolutely photorealistic. We're not going to know the difference.
It'll be more real. It'll be more real than the real.
Yes, that's right.
I got to write that down.
Be afraid.
That's right.
Well, AJ, thanks so much again for having us. It was a genuine pleasure to talk with you, and it's getting me even more amped for the rest of the season. I just need to get these preseason games under my belt and get to the ones that actually matter much more. Yeah,
absolutely. I haven't watched the Packers one yet. I have watched a few, and I've certainly will be watching the on the Game. I don't know what you use, but on the Game Pass, it's got like a condensed version, which is a blessing.
Yes, it is
for this sort of thing. So you can watch a whole game in about 40 minutes. But even in preseason, you don't even need to go that deep.
Yeah.
Usually, the first half or so gives you enough of a look at all the key rookies and all the other players and other things. So, yeah.
I will say that Kaiser and Boyle, who played quarterback in Rodgers' stead for this game, looked pretty promising. They both had some slow starts, but they eventually had some promising series. So I'm happy with the backup.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just not sure which one I'd go with for the number 2 spot, but that's what the other preseason games are for. So we're going to stay tuned. And AJ, it's always fun when I get that message through Twitter that you want to possibly speak to us again, whether or not we're too cocky. We love talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Hopefully we can do it again. And hey, if the Packers make the Super Bowl, perhaps we can have a Super Bowl chat.
Let's do it.
That's on the calendar right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, listen, you guys enjoy your Saturday, and I will go to sleep.
Have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hope you enjoyed that. That was the guys from the Packers Fan Pod. Lots of interesting things going on in Green Bay this season. But as I said, I personally, I just want to see Aaron Rodgers. Man, I want to see him healthy, and I want to see the Aaron Rodgers that we know he can be without all these sort of health things, hampering him. So let's hope we see that happen for 16 games, and then we'll see what happens. Hopefully maybe the Packers could make the postseason, but man, the NFC is, there's a lot of competition for those wild cards, or even just for the division. Well, hope you enjoyed that. That was our Green Bay Packers preview for 2019. Lots more previews to come. I'm recording even a couple tomorrow this weekend, so keeping myself busy. But anyway, thank you on behalf of G and myself. Thanks. We do appreciate you tuning in and listening. All the best, and catch you next time.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!